From the Dallas On Air studios of beautiful Dallas, Texas, this is Fulfillment here on DallasOnAir.com. And now please welcome your hosts, the Vegabomber PJ Dunn and the film samurai Carlos Salinas.
Welcome everyone. Carlos, can we survive the summer blockbuster movies?
There's too many blockbusters. It's just too many, PJ.
Are you ready?
I don't know what I'm going to do.
Are you ready for Toy Story 15? Chucky Child's Play number 127. Spider-Man Homecoming for the 15th time. And here we are.
Has this not been one of the biggest trash piles of a movie season ever this year? It's been some terrible movies. Like, I just have no desire to make a trip out to the cinema to see hardly anything lately.
Yeah.
But I've seen some good films this year. I won't deny it. But yeah, it's not been a good year for me.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I'll be interesting looking at the box office numbers over year to see how this summer is going to perform. I know people are going, wow, man, are they always this kind of negative? That's how they start the story on Fulfillment Show. But actually, no, what it is at the Fulfillment Show, if you're the first time watching, just want to say hello to you. Welcome, tell all your friends. And if you like what's happening here, go ahead and subscribe on the different various channels that we are on. And I'll just say this. We put this together because we didn't want to just be shills and just talk about movies because we get tickets to go to them or this sort of thing. We actually enjoy film, and we like collecting film. We like the directors who come back with different imaginations of things. I'd rather see a sequel than a reboot any day of the week, perhaps. And just the whole understanding of the filmmaking process and what they go through just to send us into this world called fulfillment. So you know when you've had that, because it's when you've walked away from the theater and you wanted to talk to the film with other people, or you rushed to get online to tweet about it or something. That film had you in fulfillment the moment that you did that. So I'm here with my trusted sidekick, the film samurai himself, who you can find on Twitter. And what we do is we have a couple of segments that we look at. And so, but I thought today what we would do first is, since the year is already halfway over, can you believe this? 2019 is already halfway over. So we figured we've already covered what were the films that were the greatest films so far, in our opinion. So now we're looking forward. So we're talking about today in our first segment, the most anticipated films of 2019 still yet to come, which means a date after today. So this is what we're going to look at. So I asked Carlos off screen to kind of come up with 10 films that he's looking forward to, and then I'm looking forward to 10 films. And then of course Kazak's always going to jump in and throw the funny one-liner in there for you and offend somebody, and we love it because then we get to kind of counter-offend and then look like we're on your side, but really we're on Zach's side. But either way, it's just kind of what we do.
It's just easier to be on my side just because I control the microphone. Yes, sir, you're right.
So let's look at this. So we did last week. For those of you who watch, you know we covered the films that we thought were the best films thus far. And then now, while even though the summer blockbuster may seem sleepy this year, there are some films, though, to look forward to coming up. And so we're going to look at that. So we thought we'd just start at number 10 and then work our way up. And by the way, this isn't like an official number 10. It's just this is kind of where this landed as we looked at all the films. So would you say that's fair?
Yeah, exactly. Except for my number one is my actual most anticipated film.
There you go. And
the rest are just kind of interchangeable.
That's right. And it should be
coming out at different times anyway. So yeah.
That's right. So we'll start at 10 on our list of anticipated films for 2019, still yet to come after June 22nd. And so number 10 for you, Carlos, is what?
My number 10, you're going to love this. Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker.
The Rise.
The Rise or just Rise?
Is Rise of Skywalker?
The Rise. Okay.
The Rise, yes.
The Rise.
So it's not that I'm anticipating this movie so much because I'm just dying to see the next Star Wars movie. It's more that I want to see the train wreck that it's probably going to be for me. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to love this movie. They're going to go nuts over it. That's fine. If you love I'll say Ruin Johnson, but it's Ryan Johnson.
Yes.
If you loved his that movie,
no one did.
The movie that shall not be named.
The best we could say was, well, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Because that was reserved for Phantom Menace.
The Last Jedi was my last Star Wars movie. But go ahead.
I'm just so curious.
Liar! You're lying!
I'm just so curious to see how J.J. Abrams is going to fix the fuck up that was.
He's got to bring back that mechanism from Looper.
Yeah.
No more
Could
time
be.
travel. We saw enough. No end game. No more end game. No more end game. Okay.
Yeah, go back in time.
Kill the wire. Kill the wire.
So, yeah, I'm just curious to see how it's going to play out. But I'm not expecting a great Star Wars movie where I'm just going to,
Well, we're expecting a Star Wars movie.
come in my pants.
Somewhat, some version of a Star Wars fan fiction story told by somebody. But yes.
Okay.
And so I'm with you on that. I actually think for me, I'm going to find the cheapest ticket I can to go see it. I'm not going to pay full price. I'm not going to see it at the IMAX.
No.
I'm going to wait for somebody to say, "Hey, I'll cover your ticket for you." And then I'll ask for a coupon for the popcorn that I would buy while I eat it too. So that's kind of how I'm walking into. I'll be holding my nose as I go into it, knowing that there'll be at least maybe 3 scenes in it that I'll probably like, and those will be the 3 scenes that I'll probably talk about when I talk about the movie. So my number 10 anticipated movie for 2019 actually is interesting. It's A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. And so we already had one film come out, which was a documentary on it, which was already phenomenal last year, Won't You Be My Neighbor? And I thought that was excellent.
I have to see that.
So they're capitalizing on that Mr. Rogers money right about now, I guess. And now it's Tom Hanks starring as him, which, if Tom Hanks is going to play anybody, you even have to watch it, because Tom Hanks can play a piece of toast and people will want to go see it.
Right.
Right. And so what's interesting about this one is they're not focusing like Won't You Be My Neighbor focused on just the guy, Mr. Rogers. This one's going to focus on him and his best friend, which was a journalist who at first hated him and was trying to thrash him. But once he went in to go do a story on him, ended up discovering that, wow, this guy really is all these things. So that could be an interesting play to see what that's like. So that's my number 10 is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood starring Tom Hanks.
I watched a recent episode of Drunk History. And Tom Hanks' son Colin plays Mr. Rogers.
Oh, does he really? Wow.
Oh, wow.
It
That's
was
awesome.
going, that's perfect timing.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So let's look at number 9.
Okay, number 9 for me is a movie called The Nightingale. This is directed by Jennifer Kent. She directed The Babadook, if you've ever seen
The
this movie.
Babadook, yes.
Yeah, it's a frightening movie.
This is a horror flick, yeah.
This is going to be a hardcore movie. From the reactions I've heard of people that saw, early screenings of this, it's very hard to watch because it has to do with it's 1825. It's a character named Claire. She's a young Irish convict woman. She chases a British officer through the rugged Tasmanian wilderness, bent on revenge for a terrible act of violence he committed against her family. And on the way, she enlists the service of an Aboriginal tracker. So I've seen the trailer for this, and man, it looks intense. So I can't wait to see this. It's interesting the work that women film directors are doing. They make movies that intense or more intense than some of the guys are doing these days.
Yeah, certainly giving us at least a different voice,
Right.
To look at something. Which you need those different perspectives, right? And perspectives are made from the same types of people who had the same kind of experiences. Then that would seem that the movies would also seem very familiar in that way. Number 9 for me is Ad Astra. So it's Latin for In the Stars. So we got another, if you will, Martian / Interstellar / whatever space movie that comes to mind, Gravity. But I don't think it's really like any of those necessarily. So if I remember correctly, this is about Brad Pitt is the main astronaut here, who the synopsis is that his dad got lost out in space, and there was some espionage type stuff that was going on with what his dad had out there evidently, and so he's going to go supposedly find his dad, but he's also given a mission that the person who's got this bad thing that was created actually was his dad. So it's almost kind of asking, so what do? You go out into space to try to go find your dad, who the government thinks has done something which has proven to be true in some degrees. So what do you do? So this makes me think that the twist will be that somehow he'll actually end up, if he does find his dad, he'll end up exonerating his dad. But I don't know that for sure. But it just makes me sense that from what I saw from the synopsis. But if you put Brad Pitt in a film, I've learned that while people knock him because he's always mentioned as the Black Brad Pitt, Jehovah calls himself that, right? Brad Pitt's always talked about from the way he looks and how women just swoon and that sort of thing. But really, if you look at his filmography, Brad Pitt's played some very titular characters that were interesting, and it wasn't just because of his looks that he pulled it off. Yeah. Right, and so I'm interested.
Fight Club is a good example of that.
Great examples, Fight Club.
12 Monkeys. Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
it's amazing. I mean, give him credit. He's come a long way from the idiot and cool world and the shark on the couch and True Romance.
That's right. So this is a guy who can act, really. And so I'm interested in seeing this in a space flick because, he beat Leonardo DiCaprio to going out to space. So that'll be good. He's the only person out of the big, famous pretty boys that hasn't been in a space movie yet. So he beat him. He beat Leonardo DiCaprio to space. So
you mean Critters 4 doesn't count?
It does not.
Oh.
Damn it.
It's craziness, Carlos.
Does Brad Pitt have an Oscar? Has he ever been nominated?
I thought in Meet Joe Black, he may have been like... Yeah, but I am foggy on that. We'll have to fact check. So any of you fans out there, if you know, go ahead and fact check that for us and let us know in the comments, and we'll correct that or add to that statement. So looking at number 8 for Carlos is...
Gemini Man.
Gemini Man.
Ang Lee directed this.
Not the Zodiac Man?
No, Gemini Man. Because it's twins. It's two people. The duality of man. So the synopsis on this is an over-the-hill hitman faces off against a younger clone of himself.
Wow.
So this is not Looper where he goes back in time to see himself, but this is just a clone of himself. So I'm hoping that Will Smith gets to do something interesting again. He's the last few movies of his I haven't really been impressed with. I didn't see Aladdin, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But, Will Smith used to be a huge star, Independence Day, films like that. Mm-hmm. He used to be the guy. Yeah, I'm interested. Ang Lee, I'm interested to see what he does with this guy that directed Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. It's a very respected director. So, yeah, I'm here for it.
Ang Lee, that's right. We can forgive him for The Incredible Hulk, right? Is that the case?
No.
No.
There is no pity for that movie. None.
Yeah, I think that movie would have been better if it wasn't supposedly slated as a superhero movie. It could have been a good, interesting study of a dad and a son type thing if it just wasn't that, maybe.
Yeah, it just didn't have the Great Hulk movie. It didn't have the Incredible Hulk in it. And in reference to your question about Brad Pitt, he as an actor, he's been nominated twice. He was nominated for A Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Oh, that's right.
He was also nominated for Supporting Actor in 12 Monkeys, and he was also nominated for Moneyball and The Big Short.
That's right.
Ooh, yeah.
He was also he was also nominated for Moneyball. He also has a win for 12 Years a Slave.
Huh.
As producer, I guess.
Yeah, right. As producer. Yeah, that makes sense. Very good. Well, my number 8, thanks for the clarification, Gazak. My number 8 is a movie probably no one's going to hear about, perhaps, and it's a movie called Overcomer. And so, if you guys know me, I like the films that are popular that everybody goes to, but I also like the ones that people don't know much about, the hidden gems. And I'll say the genre that's come up the most lately that you can see is the horror genre, but there's another one that's coming up slightly, and these are the face-based films. The FBMs, they're getting better because they're getting a bigger budget. They're starting to get more higher caliber actors. It's not just people who go to that church that then fund this product and have it. But Overcomer is the story of this particular coach who's about to get cut loose. And the only thing the school says that he could do then if he wants to stay on with a program is to start a cross-country, team. And he's like, why the hell would I do that? It's about basketball. It's about football. Why would I do that? And so in this film, to keep a job, he stays and does that. And he says, okay, well, go recruit the team. Is there anybody here that wants to do cross country? And this is all true story. There's only one kid that wants to do it. So he says, well, I guess I can't do it. And they're like, you can do it. The rules don't say you can't have anything different than just having one person on a team or one person that you can coach.
Wow.
So it turns out that it's a girl, she has asthma.
Oh, no.
And she wants to be the cross country champion. So it's about, here's this coach who's down on his luck, Then here's this girl who just needs somebody to believe in her, and she has asthma, and he's supposed to coach a team that only has like one person on it to go to the finals. And so this whole story kind of involves. So it's called Overcomer, and it's one of those films. The great thing about faith-based movies is that the message is always uplifting. The problem is the execution to get there. Sometimes it's kind of beats you down a little bit too much. It's too obvious in places. Sometimes it demonizes when it doesn't need to. It preaches sometimes when it doesn't need to. It just needs to tell a good, compelling human story. Yep. And I think they're realizing that in the faith-based film. So you'll see them getting a lot better. So Overcomer, probably one you wouldn't see, but it's a good one. It's kind of like Risen that I told you about, which was awesome.
Yeah, I saw that. It was great.
So let's go to number 7. And your number 7 is?
My number 7 is It, Chapter 2.
Yes.
Andy Muschietti.
Yes.
It's a horror movie. Of course, sequel to It, based on the Stephen King novel, Pennywise the Clown, terrorizes this small town. In the first movie, they're kids, but in the second one, they've grown up, the Losers Club. Mm-hmm. So they've heard that Pennywise is back, so they got to come back and beat his ass again. Yeah. So this is Jessica Chastain, McAvoy, and Bill Hader. I love Bill Hader since I watched this show.
Chitwell 4.
Oh my God! It was an HBO series where he plays a hitman. Barry. Barry. Yeah, that show is awesome. If you've never seen it, but yeah, I like the first one. I thought it had. It's hard for me these days to watch a horror movie and actually be scared, Yes. But that one had some really creepy moments in it. And you got to watch that movie carefully because there's stuff going on in the background, which you don't realize unless you're just looking back there. You're
talking about the first one, yeah.
The first one, there's a scene in a library where the kid's looking at a book and the librarian's back there and she's just standing there with this grin on her face. And it's like, oh, shit. Creeps you out. So I'm looking forward to this one.
I had issues with the first one. I'm not gonna lie. I can get into it. I think it's one of those that I'd like to fix, but that's another show. That's another show entirely. So we'll revisit it when it comes out.
Okay. And actually, I love that. I love the first one too because look at what's come out with all the other reboots of horror films. Like Pet Sematary was horrible, but at least it wasn't that way. And so I kind of at least enjoyed it for what it was. So I'm excited about that as well. My number 7.
I will say the trailer genuinely got me though.
Yeah,
the trailer for the new one.
Yeah,
they play out 2 minutes of a scene, and it's actually well done.
Oh, yeah, that old lady. Yep.
No, I think that's great. Now, my number 7 is also a film I think most people probably will miss as well. It's called Brian Banks, and so this is a true life story of a kid who's got all the physical talents to be this great football player, and he's only 16 years old when all of a sudden something happens in his life that changes him, and it's that he gets convicted of some crime because he looks like somebody, but it's not him, and so he ends up being treated and going to jail and all this other stuff, and it ruins the threat in his career, and he's just trying to figure out why would they do this? Like I'm not that guy. I mean, I look like him, but I'm not him, and so it carries the whole story of the real Brian Banks, which he eventually did make it out. He eventually did make it to the NFL and some great things happen. So I just want to see how that story plays out. And I believe the lead actors, he was in, his name slips me at the moment, but he was great in a couple of TV pilots, and he was originally one of the guys that they considered to be Black Panther before Chadwick Boseman ended up winning that outright. Okay. He was one of the guys. So maybe this is the film that breaks this actor. Yeah, so good. Brian Banks, true story. Brian Banks. I like that. Number 6.
Number 6 for me is going to be Dr. Sleep. This is the years following the events of The Shining. A now adult Danny Torrance meets a young girl with similar powers as his and tries to protect her from a cult known as the True Knot, who prey on children with powers to remain immortal. So, I'm interested in this. I haven't read the book. I used to devour Stephen King growing up, junior high and high school. I haven't read Dr. Sleep, so I'm going to check it out. Maybe before the movie, but I may wait till after. But yeah, Ewan McGregor, directed by Mike Flanagan, who did that great Netflix series. I think it's called The Haunting of Hill House, ghost story. He has this sort of interesting looks. It's not going to look like The Shining at all because his style is very it's dark. You know, it's if you watch the trailer, you'll see what I mean. But
Mm-hmm.
they do recreate some of the scenes from The Shining, the kid in the hallway on the bike, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing the twins. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I read that the only shot they really actually reused was the blood coming out of the elevators, that from The Shining. So
Wow. I like this too. I like the idea that they didn't try to reboot The Shining. They just decided to sequelize it, which was great. And this is actually my number 6 as well, because I'm a huge Shining fan. And my big thing with this movie was I just don't want them to try to pay homage to too many things, just to say, remember this, remember this, remember this, because I think that kind of takes you out of the movie. But I don't know that they'll do that. That would be my only reservation. But from what I've seen, the red rum again, seeing that spelled out on a mirror, and just the creepy ways they did it. Now they have Ewan McGregor playing Danny now, which is interesting because whenever you see in The Shining where Jack Nicholson, sticks his head through there and goes, "Here's Johnny," I just can't get past it. I just see Ewan McGregor going, "Well, hello there."
Hello there.
Ben Kenobi sticks his head to the wall. But I'm going to have to get past that, and I'm sure I will. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
chosen one.
Right. So, but I think this will be great.
Anakin, like a brother.
You were supposed to help join us, not join the Sith.
I have the high ground. You go on and on.
Yes, we could. So,
If you get a chance, check out Ewan McGregor in the last season of Fargo.
Oh yeah.
He plays 2 characters, and it's
Yes.
really, really well done.
Yep.
Yes.
I love Fargo. That Fargo TV series is amazing. All 3 seasons have been fantastic.
I think we're getting a 4th with Chris Rock. So
Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Wow.
how about that?
Yeah.
So, number 5. We are now, ladies and gentlemen, in the top 5. These means that these are a little bit more anticipated than the bottom 5. So, really heightening up and ratcheting up a little bit. Number 5 for you, Carlos, is...
Is one that you already mentioned, Ad Astra.
Yeah.
I'm definitely into that.
Yeah.
I can't wait. I heard it's going to be a huge budget. I heard, so it's probably going to look great on the screen. And yeah, I want to see Brad Pitt do something big, huge. Because man, I'm still waiting for World War Z 2.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's going to happen. Last I heard was actually David Fincher might come and direct
Really?
the second one.
Fincher?
But I think he needs to do. I think he's working on something first, and then he's going to get on that. So
How about
they got
that?
to get their schedules aligned, and so
Yeah. No, I think this is going to be great. I feel like this film is going to have the opportunity in terms of space movies. Because I think with space movies, we all imagine the cinematography is always wonderful because they always do these slow motion panning shots, tracking, and you see this wonderfulness of space, and it's so still and quiet and so opposite of our world, right? But I feel like with the story here, they might be able to push it another direction to make it even better than, say, Gravity and Interstellar and all the ones that people are going to compare it to immediately.
and even all the way back to 2001, which almost every space movie kind of sort of references in a way.
It's true.
They're all, kind of doing a little tribute to it, one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
I see it in almost every space movie. There's something in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my number 5.
So my number 5, as we're getting into the nitty and the gritty, is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That's my number 5. So the year is 1969. So that's only, 1969. I was 1 year old, but the world was doing a lot of crazy things. There was a lot of crazy things going on in Hollywood at the time. You had the Charles Manson thing. You had just the way color had just exploded in movies and films and this sort of thing earlier, of course, but now we're really tapping into it, and just the different storylines that are going to probably be woven into this for us to see. But most convincingly, though, when you think about the Manson murders and what was going on and how Charles Manson was basically living.
One of the scariest books I read was Helter Skelter.
Yep.
I read that whole book, man, as a as a teenager, and man, that book frightened me.
Yeah,
It's
a
a great
Beatles
book.
song that.
Yeah, I was inspired. Well, they inspired them. The Beatles inspired them to. I guess they scrawled Helter Skelter on one of the homes that they invaded, and it was like a nightmare. Yeah, very nightmarish.
Yeah, so
yeah.
some star actors, star players in this film. I think this is going to be I don't think this is going to be one of those films where, oh, look, they just put on 60s clothing and called it a timepiece. I think they're really going to embody what it was like to be in the late 60s in the middle of the civil rights. You also have Vietnam War still going on. I mean, it was just a crazy time in America in the late 60s for sure. And
I was 8
early
years
70s.
old.
8? Yeah, you're
So
8.
I
yeah.
remember all that.
Well,
a lot of that.
And this is also a period in time that Tarantino really idolizes. If you look at his influence,
It's true.
because he's really huge into the TV at this time. He's really,
Exploitation.
which is what this is all about. An actor and a stuntman trying to revive his TV career, and this is a time where, like I said, he really wants, I think, to capture the feeling of this, as he was growing up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's a great point. Yeah, and it is, and that's right, because we have the actor and the stuntman just trying to revive a career, and then look who the people they run into while they're doing this, and we're all going, oh, that's so-and-so, right? Because we're these film heads and history heads that know all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
Let's move to number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is Midsommar. It's a directed by Ari Aster, who did Hereditary. Did you see Hereditary?
I didn't, but I know of the film, though.
Ooh, that's a strange film. It's one of those movies where for me, I couldn't decide if I liked it or hated it, but it was interesting. It was different, and I guess I could appreciate that it was just something out of the norm for a horror movie. The ending is like nothing you've probably ever seen. But this new movie, Midsommar, you ever seen The Wicker Man?
Yes.
The old movie? Okay. I think it's going to be kind of like that. The synopsis it gives is a couple travels to Sweden to visit a rural hometown's fabled midsummer festival. What begins as an idyllic retreat quickly devolves into an increasingly violent and bizarre competition at the hands of a pagan cult. So that always creeps me out. Pagan cults and stuff. And you're trapped there, and they won't let you go, and you don't know what's going to happen to you. You're going to be sacrificed. And, you can only imagine. And I've heard reactions from audiences of this is like, yeah, you're not prepared for this movie. It's okay, it's a little hype, but we'll see. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. Florence Pugh, who did the Fighting with My Family, who played the wrestler, she's in this. She's the lead, I guess. So yeah, it'll be.
Yeah, it sounds like it
Can't
has a
wait to see
lot of interest. I had to go see the trailer just because I didn't know what this was. I looked at this, and as I watched the trailer for this, I was creeped out.
It
I was
doesn't
just
give you
like-
any really clues of what's really happening, what's going on.
It doesn't?
Kind of gives you just a teaser of
Yeah.
what's to come. So yeah.
Isn't Jordan Peele involved in this?
No, he saw it and he raved about it.
Okay.
I think he's the one that said people are not going to be ready for this, and everything after this is going to be, you know how George Peele, he's got to overblow it, Like, okay, come on, calm down, dude. Yeah, we get it. You're trying to be, praise another director, which is fine, but.
And I think how many horror films are set in Sweden? I mean, that's not like the first thing that you think of, and so I like the idea that in the shots,
it's already strange. Right?
It's during the day. It's
Yeah.
during the day. It's bright and sunny, and there's a beautiful color palette.
I don't think there was any nighttime scenes, right?
Yeah,
No
there
trailer?
wasn't any nighttime scenes, and so most horror films, it's always there's at night.
I think that was one of the things in the trailer was, okay, it's 9:00 in the evening. Why is it not dark?
Why is it not dark?
It's
Yeah.
So it's the summer solstice, I guess, because the longest day of the year. But it's like, okay, it's 24 hours of sun,
So I think if you're looking for something different visually and also from a storytelling perspective, this might be a pretty good chance at doing that for you.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a film we have already talked a little bit about. It's Information Technology 2, or It 2. So again, yes, I had this up because I was wanting to see this movie as soon as I heard that they were going to do it, because I do like the actors that they have. So with Linda Chastain in this, and all the people that we just mentioned just earlier,
Right.
I see that there's a great opportunity for the acting chops here to kind of dominate and help carry the film as well,
Yes.
instead of it just being carried by plot points from a book. So that's what I want to see. And so every one of those actors, like if they would have been no-name actors, but they're not. They're people that we already kind of know. We already kind of. I love Bill Hader. I could just imagine them in some of these situations. So definitely want to see Information Technology 2 from that perspective for sure. Let's go to number 3.
My number 3 is Ford versus, or V Ferrari.
Yes.
Versus Ferrari. Okay, so this is takes place in 1966, where Ford wanted to challenge Ferrari in the 1966 Le Mans race. I think this is that 24-hour race.
Yes.
Where you just test the, ability of the driver, their endurance, everything, and they have a short amount of time to put this engine together. Carroll Shelby is the car designer, and the driver, Ken Miles, is played by Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, yeah.
Super skinny in this movie. Again, he lost all the weight from Vice.
And Matt Damon plays Shelby.
So yeah, I can't wait to watch this on the biggest screen, the loudest screen imaginable, so I can hear that high pitched whine of that engine. Man.
Yes.
It's like, I can't wait. Since I was a kid, I loved race cars. I used to have posters of race cars on my wall. I used to draw cars. So this movie is like, I'm there day one.
Yes.
I'll be there Thursday night.
I will be there too. I love this idea of Ford versus Ferrari. This is basically David versus Goliath.
Yeah. I think this was originally going to be a Michael Mann film, but this one was directed by James Mangold.
Really?
Yeah.
The guy did Logan, right?
Yep.
Wow. So that's going to be great.
It's going to be a man's movie.
It's going to have a lot of toxic masculinity.
No chicks allowed.
All those dudes. So my number 3, and equally passionate about that, is 21 Bridges. So if you're not aware, in Manhattan, there are 21 bridges that allow access into Manhattan up in New York. And so this one is played by Black Panther himself, Chadwick Boseman, and he's the son of a police cop who was a good police chief. He was a good guy who busted many criminals but made a lot of enemies because of it, and was murdered. And so now the precinct is in the hands of his son, played by Chadwick Boseman. And so what I like about this, that might be a little different than these, is that Chadwick Boseman, while he works at the police force, feels, thinks, and acts like the Punisher. So there's a line in the film, in the trailer, where he's chasing down this bad guy, right? And I was like, put on your Panther suit, put on your vibranium, right? And which would have been cool if he did, right? And
Out of the blue,
he catches this perp, right? And he talks to the perp. He says, first you're going to do this, then you're going to do this, and then you're going to do this. And the perp says, oh my God, you're the first person with a badge that spoke before you shot. And I was like, wow. And so it's to say that he intimidated these guys first, and then he did what he was going to say he was going to do to them. And I want to see that, because again, this is a movie this is a movie with chutzpah, and it's okay to be a guy. It's all right to be assertive and aggressive when you're doing it for something good. And here he's doing that, except for, like Batman, he's going a little bit too far with these people, and that's the problem that they have with the new police chief, who's the son of the police chief who was beloved but was killed. And so this whole idea is that in this movie is he wants to lock down all of Manhattan to catch these two guys. That's what he's willing to do.
Close off all the bridges.
All of it, just like in Dark Knight Rises.
Boats and all that stuff. Yeah.
Same thing. Dark Knight Rises, right?
Ferries, I guess.
Luke Skywalker Rises. I don't know. One of those Rises movies. Planet of the Apes Rises. I don't know. Some of those Rises has been in everything, I think.
Right.
So 21 Bridges, Chadwick Boseman. You've got it. If you haven't seen the trailer, go see the trailer. And then when the tickets come out, go buy it. I think this is going to be Equalizer, but to a different degree, right? We'll see that same kind of dark grittiness.
It's going to be intense. It's going to be rated R, do you know?
I believe so. It is.
Hopefully. I like adult R-rated movies.
Yes. So 21 Bridges, believe that.
Pussy PG-13. Bullshit.
So now in our top 2.
My top 2. My number 2 is Todd Phillips's The Joker. Joker. I think it's just called Joker.
Yeah. Joker.
A failed stand-up comedian is driven insane and becomes a psychopathic murderer. Joaquin Phoenix. Everything I've seen about this movie looks amazing. Robert De Niro's in it. Zazie Beetz, who was from Deadpool 2.
Okay.
That beautiful Nubian guys. Shea Wigham. That guy, he's in everything, man. He's always good. Have you seen Chernobyl yet on HBO?
I haven't, but it's on my list to watch.
The composer of the music in that movie is doing the music in this movie, and I bet it's going to be amazing because she uses sounds, and it's a very unusual score for Chernobyl. So I'm so interested to see what she does with Joker, and of course Joaquin Phoenix one of my favorite actors right now, and he looks. Yeah, just from the trailer I've seen, it looks like it's going to be pretty dark. I know it's going to be R-rated, so that's a point up for me. I want it to be dark and bloody and yeah. I wanna see
Twisted,
what happens. Yeah, twisted.
I want to see it
Like the
psychotic.
Joker.
Yes, that's what I want to
Yeah.
see. And I don't want to see like Heath Ledger Part 2. And I know Joaquin Phoenix has the depth to not be
Yeah.
Heath Ledger Part 2. I think he will own this and take it his own way. In fact, if he adds Commodus to it, that'd be very interesting when he played Commodus.
If you've
in
seen that movie,
Gladiator.
you were not really here.
Mm-hmm.
He plays this kind of heavy duty. He takes on jobs like he'll find runaway kids who are being abused, and he's very heavy set, and he has nightmare images of things that happened to him. Obviously, it looked like he was abused as a child himself. That movie is probably one of his most intense roles recently. So I can see him kind of carrying on that kind of darkness into
Okay.
Joker. So, yeah, I'm all for that.
Okay. Well, we got 2 more segments. I'll hurry us up through it. So my number 2 is Ford versus Ferrari. Once again, so I'll quickly say this. As a kid, the sheets that I had on my bed were from the NHRA, the National Hot Rod Association, because my favorite form of racing was the drag racing. So Hot Wheels was a big thing for me as a kid because they made the Tom McEwen funny car and also the Don Perdome Snake funny car. And so I loved Hot Wheels. I loved cars. And if you collected cars long enough, or those little toy diecast cars, you would eventually run into Ferraris. And you would eventually, there would be some Ford ones made as well. And so for me to see this, again, it's a David and Goliath story. Here's this Ford Motor Company. Who are they? You know, they're not even in the same wheelhouse as a Ferrari. What makes them think that they could get into a enduro race that's lasts 24 hours, which is not only just difficult for the driver, it's also difficult on the car and what they can do to keep these cars. And so many versions of the car, they usually have a team of cars that are of that brand. And so it's a team of cars. It's not just one. It's a team of Fords and it's a team of Ferraris, and you're hoping that more of your cars stick the landing than the other guys if they fall apart. So it's a grueling race of straightaways within harsh slow down to 30 miles an hour turns. So it's a lot of hard speed and then slowing it down and forcing that car to go into corners without losing control,
So you're
and then doing this and doing this several times.
Yeah,
Oh
those
my
brakes are
gosh.
just
So
turning bright red.
and so the fact that that Ford would even challenge Ferrari in some ways, some people would think, well, how dare you? That's like a
Laughable.
fourth grader picking a fight with a MMA champion, right? Like, what? Are you kidding me? So yes, Ford versus Ferrari for all. And now the number 1 film that you're anticipating for 2019, for what's left of 2019, is
One you mentioned earlier, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So
Yes.
yeah, it's for me just the fact that it's Quentin Tarantino's new movie is for me is they're always an event movie. I'll go see them every one. I've seen just about everything in the theater except for Reservoir Dogs, the first one.
mm-hmm.
And man, I think that movie I rented, the video of it and watched it, and I was like, wow. And then when Pulp Fiction came out, I had to go to the theater to see it. Man, I was blown away by that. So ever since I've been a huge fan of Tarantino, so loved them all. Death Proof, all of them. I can't get enough. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you.
And that '60s era is probably my, like you said, one of my favorite. Actually, well, for films it's '70s, but
Yeah.
'69, that end of the, like you said, the Vietnam, the strife, the social strife, the marches, the civil rights, all that stuff, kind of, crashing. It was a very divisive time. So yeah.
And in this you've got a filmmaker who really loves Hollywood, who really loves
Yes.
LA, and I think he's
Yep.
it just from the pictures alone, you're getting to see someone who truly loves the city the way he sees it.
He refurbished that Cinerama Dome out on Hollywood. It's not Hollywood Boulevard, but it's near there, and put that Krakatoa east of Java. And I remember that movie from back then. It was a huge volcano, and it was just a big spectacle movie, like the big disaster movies of those times. So yeah, he I guess rebuilt and spruced it up, and it looks really nice now. I actually was there when I went down to see those films. So Yeah, I can't wait.
Oh, that's great.
I almost want to make a trip out there just to watch it there. At
Why
that
not?
Cinerama
Right?
Dome.
I know there would be something about that.
That'd be
Yeah,
awesome.
and so my number one is what you've already detailed in the Joker. I want to see this. I believe that Joaquin Phoenix is a tremendous actor and a great character actor as well. And if you have a good plot with somebody who's already a great character actor, then what you should get is gold. That's what we should get with Joker. And so I'm super excited about that for once. And they don't have to even mention Batman in this movie for this movie to be good.
Right.
That's how popular the Joker has become because of Heath Ledger's portrayal. And so since Heath Ledger put the bar so high, which is a good thing, because now it means anybody else that's going to play this has to really bring it. So I love the fact that Heath Ledger pushed it to that level. And this is not to say that Jack Nicholson didn't either. He did. But I think now we get to see someone else's take at it, and I think it'll be much better than Jared Leto's. You know,
I
which
was
he
going to say, I thought Jared Leto did a better job than Heath Ledger. No.
No, you're not. You're trolling now.
Okay,
You're trolling, bro.
Okay, sir, you're drinking before the show. This is no longer fulfillment. This is now intervention. These are the ways your terrible taste in film have affected me.
No. Leto he was interesting, but man, he was so annoying.
Yeah, it was.
I will say that I am looking forward to Todd Phillips' take on this.
Yeah.
Todd's an interesting director. You take a look
Didn't
at
he do the Hangover, right?
Yeah, he took on The Hangover. So I'm curious to see, like I said, because you're going to get a really, I think, darkly comic movie.
Yeah.
I think, and like I said, you've got to think you're going to give this guy who can be played very one-dimensionally a whole lot of dimension and a whole lot of depth, especially when you're going into places that the comic books doesn't even go. Because one of the things about the Joker is that you've never really known his origin story. And if you do know his origin story, it's a lie. Yeah. So
yes,
it's a different one every time.
It's curious to see what the take they're going to do on it.
Yes, I like it. I like it a lot. So that was our first segment today. We're going to jump into now our second segment of the week, and it is called the Picks of the Week. Wiki. Yes. So this segment, if you're new and you're just joining us, is our segment where we look at the films that are just now being released. We go through them, tell you a little bit about them, so that you, when you get ready to spend your hard-earned cash, can get a good sense of what might be something that might be up your alley if you don't know much about the film. So there's several films that have been released this week, but we're going to take just perhaps the big three and take a look at them. And so those films would be, number one, Toy Story 4, also Child's Play, and the action thriller Anna. So let's start off at the top. We'll look at Toy Story 4. This is an animated comedy. It's about 1 hour and 40 minutes. It's directed by Josh Cooley, and the actors are Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, and the rest of the usual suspects in this. So Toy Story 4, I imagine this is just good for the parents to take the kids to. I'm really not that interested in Toy Story anymore after a while, so if I see it's matinee.
As far as I'm concerned, Toy Story 3 was the end of the trilogy, and it ended perfectly. I don't know why they did another one.
Yeah.
I'm sure it has another story to tell, but it's a story that, I'm not interested in it. As an adult, I'm kind of outgrown them anyway.
Yeah.
If I had kids, maybe I'd probably take them.
Yeah.
I took my, it was what made Toy Story 3 so heartbreaking for me was that Andy goes off to college, and that was the exact same year my son went off to college. So, man, that movie hit me twice as hard.
Wow.
So, as far as I'm concerned, that was it.
Yeah. Well, and so that's it. I mean, Toy Story 4, again, I it's not that I think that the film is going to be bad. I think at some point, I guess you look at Hollywood, especially if you watch as many films as we do each week, you just kind of say, okay, I get why you do it, and sure, it's going to make you some money. But it's like in Spider-Man, right? What did Uncle Ben tell Spider-Man? He said, just because you can beat up Flash Thompson doesn't mean you should beat up Flash Thompson, right? So just because you could make a money and you could make a movie and it could make some money for you doesn't mean you necessarily have to. I think that's what I'm going to stick with when it comes to that.
That's the way I look at a lot of films. It's because you could make this movie. Why did you make this movie?
Yeah. I mean, I could make
That's because you could.
I could make a movie about styrofoam toast, but why would I even imagine doing that? So I'm not going to do that. All right, here we go. So Child's Play is the horror film that's released out of this group. Now, this is the shortest of these three films. It's only an hour and 30 minutes, thank God. And it's directed by Lars Kjellberg and, interestingly, actor Mark Hamill. Aubrey Plaza are some of the lead actors in this particular.
He's doing the
film.
voice of
and
Chucky,
he's doing
right?
the voice of Chucky now. Mark Hamill. So what I imagine is he's channeling all his hate from what happened to his character in The Last Jedi, and he's putting it in Chucky. So this is probably going to be very convicting if he just channels that alone. So Child's Play, any desire?
I think I only saw the first Child's Play movie, and I don't know if I saw it on TV or on cable or what. I don't know. I don't think I went to go see it.
Yeah.
I vaguely remember one with that actress from Bound. What's her
Jennifer
name?
Tilly.
Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah.
Who played Chucky, Bride of Chucky. I've seen scenes from that, but I don't think I ever actually sat through the movie.
Bride of Chucky.
So yeah, these gimmicky type horror films, to me they're not realistic. So I stray away from those type of horror movies.
Yeah,
They
this
just
is
don't do
like
it for
the
me.
horror version of the Medea
Puppet
films, isn't
Master,
it?
those type of
No,
garbage. I'm sure people are fun to watch, I guess, if you're drunk or on high on something. But no.
well, if you're talking to the right guy, because hi, Child's Play is a franchise I enjoy, and I'm not looking forward to this. This is the first one without Don Mancini. No Mancini, no Brad Dourif. No interest.
That's what Brad Dourif made that. Chucky.
It's a totally different. It's a different take on the Child's Play franchise, because in this one, like I said, there's no voodoo. There's no.
He's like an IA, right? I mean,
Right. Basically, a Korean software engineer goes rogue and trains the doll to go bad, and basically because it controls all technology in your house, it turns all technology bad. So basically, it's not Child's Play. It's Maximum Overdrive.
Wow.
With computers. So no, and as much as I love Mark Hamill, he's not Brad Dourif, who's been playing Chucky since the beginning, and like I said, even his daughter is in the franchise, in the direct to DVD sequels, and they're more fun than anything. So I know Brad Dourif, no Child's Play, forget it.
Wow. And see, and they messed up here. He shouldn't have been in Child's Play. He should have been in The Joker. That's what Mark Hamill should have been in, since he voices the Joker. So they made a mistake here. I think they switched titles on him. Said, Mark, we know we told you Joker, but you're coming to Child's Play. Is that okay? Well, the check's still good though, and we'll have it clear right now.
Yeah,
if you could just do Child's Play.
It's still $500,000.
It's not like I can do Star Wars anymore. So anyway, he does Child's Play now. And then the other film, this is the only action thriller film in the bunch this week, is Anna. This is the longest film out of the three. It's 1 hour and 59 minutes, which means it's just a tick under 2 hours, which is fine. The director is Luc Besson, which we remember from Lucy and a few other films in the first Taken. And then the actors are Sasha Luss and Helen Mirren, who I love, and Luke Evans. And so I know you've seen the movie, but Anna, action thriller, pretty exciting. Does it live up to action and thriller?
It does. Has a ton of action in it. It has car chases. Does it have explosions? Yeah. Typical action movie. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay. I'll go into it on the seen it.
Perfect. So now here's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and tell you what our pick then is of the week. Now, honorable mentions also coming out this week for those of you who are going, wait a minute, you didn't talk about Swinging Safari or Wild Rose or the Toni Morrison story, The Pieces I Am, or A Round of Your Life. We didn't, because probably time constraints. But there's a movie called Burn Your Maps that's also coming out. And I kid you not, just go Google it. And there's something about being a Mongolian goat herder. So anyways, go check that out. Maybe if you want to find out about that. But those are the other films. I would say out of these three, between Toy Story 4, an animated comedy that's an hour and 40 minutes, Child's Play, which is a horror film, supposedly, which is the shortest of all the films, and then Anna, an actual action thriller that actually will take its time and go through the paces, develop the characters by a director who shoots these kind of films well, and Luc Besson. Anna, I would have to say the pick here seems to be Anna, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Unanimous. Kazak, if you had to go to the theater and watch any of those movies,
you were forced at gunpoint.
You had me at Luc Besson.
Yes.
Honestly, just because I've even been tempted to see that last one he did, that sci-fi whatever.
Oh, Valerian, yeah.
Valerian. I was tempted because it's Luc Besson, but then I keep on hearing the reviews. It's like, no.
I saw that on the big screen. Yeah, it was visually, it's stunning.
Yeah,
and the acting is a little kind of because it's Dane DeHaan, Cara Delevingne.
Eyebrows of
I think they were miscast. I think they would if they would have got two better leads. that movie could have really been something.
Yeah.
But anyway,
But visually, it's stunning to watch. Wow.
okay, so this one, is it a typical Luc Besson film?
Yes,
That-
it
that's
is.
all you got? That you
It
got
is.
me. You got my-
If you liked La Femme Nikita, it's
Yes.
just like that.
Shut up and take my money.
It's just a
There
variation
it
of that.
is. The female John Wick breaks out. Okay, so now then, with our last segment and the last few moments that we do have here today, we're going to talk about the films that we have just seen, because that's good. So segment 2 is Just Seen It. So as always, we like to kick off to the film samurai and find out what films he saw here recently before the taping of the show.
I'll do them real quick. But I will say Anna is, for me, it was entertaining. It's a variation of La Femme Nikita. It's basically they take a poor, junkie, criminal girl off the streets. She's kind of down on her luck, whatever. She's with a crummy boyfriend. She had applied to the Russian Navy, so they know she's smart. She plays chess. Her father was an officer, and it's a lot of espionage. The way they tell it is interesting because they jump around in time. So they'll show something happening, and then they'll go 3 months earlier, and then they'll show leading up to that. And the lead girl, Sasha Luce. She was actually a model. She does a decent job as the girl, as the spy. And in the movie, she plays a part-time model, but she's a spy. So yeah, it's Helen Mirren is awesome. She's a Russian KGB, and yeah, she's amazing. Luke Evans, Cillian Murphy. It has a great cast. It has some. If you like that fight choreography, it's great. It's that John Wick style, very quick, shooting, blasting right in the face. Shooting behind her and fighting and getting out of holes and stuff. She gets hit a lot, so you probably appreciate that. So yeah, it was great. I loved it.
And you also saw another movie.
I'm going to go to Ful FILM here.
Okay.
Because this was on television, Amazon Prime. Too Old to Die Young. Nicholas Winding Refn, the guy who did Drive. Only God Forgives, and what was that other one he made? I can't remember off the top of my head. But Ed Brubaker is the writer. Ed Brubaker wrote Captain America: Winter Soldier. This movie is so dark. It has everything in it. It has Mexican cartel. It has guys that make porn. It has it has nudity, it has sex, violence up the wazoo. I mean, it's really violent, and it's gory violence, and it's a great cast. Miles Teller plays the lead. He plays like a sheriff's department guy who gets promoted up to homicide, but part-time he's a killer for this black drug gang who's trying to take over territory from the Mexican cartel, and then they go to war, and it gets dark, and there's elements of religion and occult and existential conversations that will remind you of the Ridley Scott movie The Counselor. It'll remind you of David Lynch a lot. It's not as surreal. Everything that happens really happens. It's not there is visions in it and stuff. John Hawkes plays a guy who's kind of working for a woman who is using him to kill like child predators and things, like just bad people. And so they kind of have this relationship. So there's kind of a good versus evil element. Jenna Malone plays the woman. And to me, if you look at it like an allegory, she's almost like God. And then on the Mexican side, they have this character, Yaritza. She's this beautiful Mexican. She's almost like a curandera, like a witch, sort of. She calls herself she refers to herself as the high priestess of death. And so she's avenging angel. She helps these. They have female trafficking, so she helps the girls escape, kills the guys that are kidnapping and stuff. So man, it has all kinds of shot amazingly. It's very slow though in places. Conversations take forever. There's long pauses in between questions and answers. So if this is not the style, you may hate the show, but man, I just consumed every bit of it. It's a nightmare. It's like a beautiful nightmare. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, that's great. That sounds phenomenal.
It's 10 episodes and it's long. I mean,
Yeah.
it's weird because the first episode is an hour and a half, and then the last episode is 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So they leave it wide open for seasons 2. So man, I can't wait. It's going to be apocalyptic.
Well, I've seen 2 this week as well. One, a Netflix docuseries, and the other a movie. So I'll talk about the one that everybody's talking about right now first, and that is When They See Us, the 4-part docuseries done by Ava DuVernay, who did 13th, a documentary on Netflix, and also the movie Selma, and then of course A Wrinkle in Time. We'll forgive her for that one. But Selma, she does a great job. So Ava DuVernay has an eye for shooting cinematic, dramatized, real life, civil and social type unrest movies without them looking too documentary-ish, if you can say that. She has a way of capturing it so that you see more than just one point of view. It isn't just from the point of view of the people who are the victors in the film. She can show all the different sides at the same time and then stick with the major narrative without losing it. So when you see When They See Us, which is about the Central Park 5, these 5 boys who were railroaded by the police to coerce them to confess that they were there around the scene of a rape so that they could later then be blamed for the rape, while the real rapist was still free running around raping people, raped 5 other people after that, and killed a woman who was pregnant while her children were in another room. But, we got 5 black teenagers in here who happen to be in the park. So if you haven't seen it and you haven't been to New York, the Central Park is huge. It's 800 and something acres. And the idea that if you think of park as just this small little park like we may have here in Dallas, no, this was huge. And so to even just be in the same park
literally,
doesn't mean necessarily. But anyway, what that shows is it shows the story for the first time from the perspective of the 5 boys who were 14 years old, 15, and then one was 16. So the one that was 16 was actually tried as an adult. So he got put in a maximum security prison in Rikers with grown men. Man. Now, what people don't really understand about this is that even in prison, the worst thing about being in prison is if you're there for harming children or women, because even the criminals have a code, and they will make your life miserable if they find out that you're there because of a rape or child molestation. So that's what this kid who had nothing to do with it, who has a learning disability, Corey Wise, what he dealt with for 13 years, while the real rapist, Matthias Reyes, actually happened to be in the prison that he actually bumped into and ended up not knowing it, and then eventually it plays into the story. So if you haven't seen it, it's wonderful drama, wonderful action. If you love history, if you love crime dramas, if you love any kind of history at all, just seeing this is huge. And it also plays a huge part to how we're going to see cases going forward, because people are documenting things and they're going back and saying, hey, did we get it right back then? Right? Like Bill Cosby, going back and looking back into what happened to him. So you might have gotten away with something 20 or 30 years ago, but if people open up the case and take a look at it, and if it gets vacated, which means they can retry the case again, which is what happened here, and they retried it, and then found Matthias Reyes, the real rapist, guilty of all the these charges and whatnot. That's how they got exonerated. So that's going to happen a lot, because people are going to dox things. We have information at the tip of our hands, and so if you do some crazy stuff, don't think you're going to get away with it forever. And so even right now, this film has caused a lot of activism, because people want Linda Fairstein, the prosecutor. They want to see what other people she's railroaded, because they don't think that these 5 boys are the only one. So they're asking to have different things open up. And so based off the statute of limitations, we'll find out if they can.
Every big city DA's office has done really questionable, shitty things.
Yes.
I guarantee it. Because they want to get the convictions. They want to get the winning records. And they don't care.
They don't care.
At the detriment of the person they're prosecuting. He's screwed.
It's true. And I didn't know this before watching it. So it's very educational, is that officers can lie in order to get a testimony. They don't have to tell you the truth. They can use whatever means necessary to get a confession from you. Because obviously
one of the other guys already said you did.
Yes.
So
they can say,
in fact, you did not.
So with that, we know that that's what's happened in that way. So that was the first film I saw. It was extremely powerful. Even if you get on nervous with things like that, you have to at least, this is a film you have to at least watch once, and then after that, you can consider it and you can be in the conversation. The second film that I saw was actually a movie called Emmanuel by director Brian Ivey, who did Dropbox, and the producers were Steph Curry and Viola Davis, and it was about the 9 people who were killed and shot in church by Dylan Ruth.
Man, yeah.
So they called them the Charleston 9 because they were the ones who were executed. So this film goes back and shows you step by step how these people were remembered by the people who survived them, who their family members who happened to not be at church that night. And so as I watched this was really gripping, again, TV, because he kept one of them alive on purpose so that they could go tell his story. And so she tells her story of how she's crawling between the pews and he's just shooting people, blank, 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 and this sort of thing. And then he comes to her and he says, "Have I shot you yet?" And she said, "No." And he goes, "Okay, well, I'm going to keep you alive so that you can tell what went on in here." And then he left. So the movie came out because this was exactly the same time it came out 5 years ago. So this is the exact date. That's why it only came out on the 17th and the 19th, because that's when the story was first being circulated. So it's a movie called Emmanuel. If you want to go look it up and find out about it, you can. There's some great films that are being made from that perspective. So. Yeah, there we go. So it was a lot to give. There's even more to tell you about these films, but hey, we just want to get you started. We want to get your appetite whet so that you can go out there and experience the fulfillment for yourself. But we hope we've done that for you today. At least get you started, get your taste buds salivating to go to see some good film. Our next show will be July 14th. So we will then get right back to
the day before my birthday.
The day before your birthday. Okay, we're gonna have to do something then for that. We're going to go back to our Picks of the Week segment. We'll go back to our MILF movie I'd like to fix, and we'll also do our Just Seen It Again next week. So, Carlos, how can the people find the Film Samurai?
You can find me on Twitter at Film Samurai and Facebook at Film Samurai.
Well, that's right. And you can find me, the Vegabomber, on YouTube under Vegabomber, and then on YouTube under Vegabomber, and then Twitter and Facebook, and I think there's another one. I always forget the other one.
TikTok?
TikTok,
aren't you?
Instagram. There we go. So there you go, under the name Vegabomber. And so, Kazak, how can they find you?
You can find me here every Sunday here on DallasOnAir.com. You can find me doing Talk Nerdy to Me Sunday, not only here, but next on the Vortex of Doom show, along with you can find me on the Rancor Pit, our Star Wars talk show, and you can also find me on Figments, the Unexplained Mysteries podcast, and on Isle of Toys, our toy collector show.
And with that, we will see you all July 14th or in 2 weeks. But in between that time, go check out the Film Samurai on Twitter, and go check me out on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube.
Sayonara.
We're outie. Peace.
This is DallasOnAir.com.